You have to understand what 16,000 people sound like when they all forget how to breathe at the same time. It's not silence, not really. Silence is empty. This was full asterisk, full of everything that just happened, full of everything that was supposed to happen next, full of a story that every single person in that California stadium thought they already knew. They had shown up for tennis. They had shown up for noise, for the crack of a racket and the primal roar of a career rising. Instead, they got something that no sport has a playbook for. March 8th, Indian Wells, Stadium 1, the kind of place where the air hums before a single ball is struck. Alexandra Eala had just played the match of her life, not the kind where you squeak by, not the kind where you hope for a lucky net cord, the kind where you take it. She had taken it from Coco Gauff, world number 4, a name already carved into the sport's future. Eala broke her like storm surf breaking on a seawall, repeatedly, relentlessly. The first set disappeared 6-2 before anyone could blink. And then Eala came out in the second set and punched first again, 2-0. She was composed, dominant, weightless. She looked like she had been born on this court in this light in front of this many people. And then, Gauff started to struggle. Not the usual ebb and flow of a match, something else, something in her left arm. Later, she would describe it as fireworks detonating inside her muscles, not a metaphor you want to feel in your own body, but a perfect one for the kind of pain that doesn't negotiate, it just takes. She couldn't play through it, she couldn't pretend, she walked toward the net. And that's when the match stopped being a match. Flags dropped, the noise didn't just fade, it collapsed asterisk like a building coming down in slow motion. 16,000 people holding one collective breath. And in the middle of all that, Eala, standing in the center of the biggest victory she had ever known, did not raise her arms, she did not pump her fist, she did not look to her box for validation. She walked toward Gauff not as a winner, as a person who had just watched a friend get hurt. She followed her as Gauff gathered her things. She listened while Gauff explained what had happened, the fireworks, the choice that wasn't a choice. There was no performance in it, no camera-chasing sympathy, just two young women in a quiet corner of an enormous stadium being human. Eala would later try to put words to it, called it a massive moment, competing on that stage against one of the best, but her own voice couldn't quite cover what her face had already given away in those seconds. Some things don't translate into sound bites. Now, to feel the full weight of this, you have to wind the clock back. Earlier in 2025, Eala had already started sending messages that the tennis world was finally learning to read. At the Miami Open, she took down world number 2 Iga Swiatek, a win that doesn't happen by accident. Then Grand Slam champions Madison Keys and Alina Rybakina fell in line. During that run, she collected over $332,000 in prize money, but the money was never the point. The point was the asterisk statement, asterisk, she belonged. She had always belonged, the rankings were just slow to catch up. At Indian Wells, she pushed further. Her run to the round of 16 added another $78,000 to her season earnings. But standing at the microphone afterward, she didn't mention a single dollar. She talked about the journey, the process, and then, because it was International Women's Day, she paused just long enough for something to shift in her voice. She thanked the women who had built the path before her. She called Coco Gauff an extraordinary competitor and a role model and wished her a fast recovery. And then she turned toward the stands, found her mother's eyes, and said the words that cracked the stadium open. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It wasn't respectful in that distant, perfunctory way. It was asterisk felt. Broadcast cameras scrambled to hold on to it. The crowd didn't want it to end. But here's the thing, the cameras almost missed the real story, because to understand that moment, you need the history underneath it. It started with a DM on Instagram before the 2025 Italian Open. Eala, bold in a way that still surprises people who don't know her, reached out to Gauff and asked if she'd be her doubles partner. That's a big ask. Doubles is intimate, it's trust. Gauff said yes. They went on to reach the quarterfinals together, playing through top-tier competition with a chemistry that surprised even the people inside their own camps. But the result was never the story. The story was what formed between them. On those clay courts, two young women from different sides of the world, each carrying the weight of enormous expectations, found something real in each other. They practiced together before the Australian Open. They traded messages after wins and losses. They joked on social media in ways that didn't look staged because they were. Theirs was the kind of friendship that professional sport usually doesn't allow, too much at stake, too much competition, too many reasons to keep your distance. And yet here it was, right out in the open. So when Gauff said at the net, "You're playing great," she meant every syllable. And when Eala walked her off the court with a hand on her back, she meant that too. But there's one more piece. The part that happened after the stadium had mostly emptied, quieter, more personal. Reportedly, Eala had a small commemorative item with her, a token she had received weeks earlier tied to her run at the ASB Classic in Auckland. It wasn't a Grand Slam trophy, it wasn't a WTA title, but it had meant something to her, and she placed it in Gauff's hands. Your message before my first WTA quarterfinal, she said. That meant everything to me. Gauff looked at it, looked at her, and then said something that Eala will probably carry for the rest of her career. You're going to have so many more of these, you won't even remember this one. They hugged, not the quick, polite hug of two competitors exchanging pleasantries, a real one, the kind that lingers, the kind where you feel the other person's heartbeat through the fabric. The clip spread within hours. Friendship over rivalry started trending. Fans who had watched the match live described feeling like they had witnessed something rare, a moment in professional sport that refused to be reduced to a score line or a stat. Meanwhile, the rankings did their cold mechanical work. Eala broke into the top 30 on the WTA live rankings for the first time in her career. The wins over Swiatek, Keys, Rybakina, and now Gauff were no longer surprises. They were a pattern, a trajectory, evidence of something building. Gauff returned to competition at the Miami Open, faced Rybakina, and kept moving forward. When asked about Eala, she didn't hesitate. She's a class act, I'm lucky to call her my friend. And that's the line that says it all. Because this story was never really about prize money. It wasn't about rankings or trophies or viral moments. It was about two athletes, young, watched, pressured, far from home, who chose to show up for each other in a sport that rarely makes space for that. It was about Eala standing on the biggest stage of her career and still finding the instinct to ask, "Are you okay?" Behind every ranking number is a person. Behind every post-match interview is a lifetime of sacrifice. And every once in a while, on a court in front of 16,000 people, that reality breaks through in a way that the scoreboard can't contain. That's what Indian Wells gave us. Not just a result. A reminder.